Emily Harper hit the ground so hard that the breath was torn out of her chest. For a moment, she could not even scream. The blazing summer sun of the Kansas prairie slammed down on her face. Dust filled her mouth. Her vision shook. Her ears rang like church bells after a gunshot. She tried to rise. Her arms gave out. Her legs folded beneath her like wet cloth. A few minutes earlier, she had been riding with a small supply wagon near the Cimarron crossing. Now the wagon was a cloud of dust fading into the horizon. The horses had bolted after a loud crack from somewhere behind the trail. The driver yelled at her to jump. The wagon hit a rough patch of broken rocks that slowed it down just enough for her to lose her footing. She slipped, rolled hard into a patch of dry weeds, and the wagon jerked forward before fading into the heat. Emily pushed her palms into the burning dirt. Her fingers trembled. Sweat mixed with blood from a scrape on her shoulder. Her white camisole stuck to her skin. The cloth was torn open by the fall. The heat pressed on her like a heavy hand. Her throat was dry. Her heart thumped as if it wanted to escape her ribs. She tried to shout for help. The prairie swallowed her voice. Only wind answered. Hot, dry, empty. The kind of wind that did not care if a person lived or died. Emily forced herself to crawl toward a wooden porch. She could barely see ahead. Luckily, the cabin stood no more than 50 steps away, closer than she first thought, or her strength would have given out on that burning trail. It looked like an abandoned ranch cabin. Maybe someone lived there. Maybe no one did. Her head swam. Her breath sharpened. Every inch she moved felt like another chance to faint. Yet something inside her refused to give up. Every movement felt like pushing through boiling water. When she reached the porch steps, her strength vanished again. She slumped forward. Her cheek touched the warm wood. She tasted dust, and her lips cracked. She whispered for help. Her voice broke. The world blurred. Wooden beams, empty corrals, faraway horses. The horizon shimmered like a flame. She tightened her fingers on the porch plank. She feared if she let go, she would simply drift away into the heat. A deep voice cut through the silence. She did not know if it was real or a dream. Heavy boots stepped close. The shadow of a tall man blocked the sun. Then she felt a hand touch her arm. Not rough, not cruel. Just firm enough to keep her from collapsing further. She opened her eyes. A gray-bearded rancher stood over her. His shirt was dusty, his vest worn, his face serious and weathered by years under the same harsh sun that was now killing her strength. Emily tried to speak, but her throat burned. The rancher knelt down. His eyes studied her face, not with desire. It struck her as strange how a stranger could feel safer than the men she'd known for years. Not with judgment, but with a kind of wary concern. He asked her what happened. She tried to answer. The words turned into a dry gasp. He lifted her gently into the shade. Her body shook. Then a thought struck her, a cold fear. Did she collapse at the doorstep of the one man who might help her, or the one man who might end her last chance of survival? Emily lay there in the shade for a long moment. Her breath slowed. The burning in her throat eased. The rancher stayed crouched beside her. He looked like a man carved out of the land itself. Dust on his boot, sun lines around his eyes, a quiet strength that felt both strange and comforting. He said his name was Elias Carter. His voice was low and steady, the kind of voice that did not rise unless it had to. He asked again if she was hurt. Emily nodded a little. Her shoulder ached. Her legs felt like they were made of sand. She tried to sit up, but her head spun. Elias kept a hand near her arm, as if ready to steady her again. He laughed softly under his breath and said she looked like she had been dragged behind a runaway mule. There was no cruelty in it, just a tired humor from a man who had seen more than his share of rough days. Emily let out a shaky breath. It was the first moment since the fall that her fear loosened even a little. Elias walked to the well a few steps from the porch. He drew up a bucket. The water splashed clear and cold. He carried it back and let her sip from his hand. Emily closed her eyes as the water touched her tongue. It felt like life coming back into her bones. She whispered a thank you. He just nodded. Said anyone would have done the same. Emily doubted that. He helped her stand. Her knees buckled. Elias caught her without hesitation. For a man his age, he moved quick. He He let her lean on him while he guided her inside the cabin. The place was small and simple but clean. Wooden table, a single chair, a lantern, a shelf of old worn books, and in the corner a bed with a faded quilt. Elias pointed to it and told her to sit. Emily blinked in surprise. She asked where he would sleep if she took his bed. He shrugged, said he had slept on barn floors and wagon boards most of his life. A chair or the porch would be fine for one night. The way he said it caught her off guard. There was no hint of pressure, no hidden meaning, just a man doing what felt right. That alone made her heart twist in a way she did not expect. She looked at him more closely. Gray in his beard, tired lines on his face, but also something steady and kind, and something a person could trust if she dared to. Emily felt a tremble deep inside, not from fear, from the question rising in her chest. And what kind of man risks offering help to a stranger in a land where most folks only look out for themselves? Emily sat on the edge of the bed for a long while. The room was quiet. The kind of quiet that lets a person hear her own thoughts, whether she wants to or not. Elias stepped outside for a moment to check on his horses. She could hear the soft clink of the gate and his steady footsteps in the dirt. Something about that sound made her chest loosen. It had been years since she felt safe enough to sit still without watching every door and every shadow. She traced the torn edge of her camisole. The cloth was worn thin from travel. Her hands shook a little, not from pain, from the weight of everything she had kept secret. When Elias came back inside, she knew she had to speak. She owed him that much. She told him her name, her full name, Emily Harper. She told him she'd worked in a saloon in Dodge City for almost 3 years, serving drinks and sweeping floors, dealing with men who thought a kind word bought more than a smile. She told him the owner wanted her to stay forever. Wanted to claim her like she was part of the furniture. She paused often. The memories tightened her throat. For a moment she wondered if speaking the truth out loud would make the past easier to carry. Elias listened without interrupting. His jaw was set, his eyes steady. When she said she ran away on that supply wagon, he nodded like a man who understood running better than most. Then she told him about the robbery on the trail. The driver had no time to help her. Everyone scattered. She fell, and here she was. Elias sat in the single chair. He leaned forward. His hands rested on his knees. He told her she survived something many folks would not. He told her she was stronger than she looked. Emily felt her eyes burn a little at that. She had not heard words like that in a very long time. Then Elias stood up and walked to the window. He looked out toward the trail. The sky was turning gold again. He said Dodge City was not far. He said men from that saloon might come looking. They had before. Hearing that made her realize she had not escaped as far as she hoped. They might again. His voice was calm but firm. Like a man warning of a storm he knew too well. Emily felt her heartbeat rise. She asked him what they would do if those men showed up. Elias turned around and looked at her. His answer was simple. He said they would deal with it when the time came. That calm tone should have eased her worry. Instead, it made the question inside her grow bigger. Who exactly was this rancher willing to stand between her and a danger she had barely escaped once already? And before we move on, I want to invite you to stay with us a little longer. Go ahead and subscribe if you enjoy stories told by a warm voice at the end of a long day. Now take a slow sip of your tea and tell me what time it is where you are listening and what town you are listening from. Morning settled over the ranch with a soft golden light. Emily stood by the porch rail. She held a cup of water and breathed slow. For the first time in days, her hands did not tremble. Elias fed the horses nearby. He moved with a quiet rhythm. Simple work. Honest work. For a brief moment, she let herself believe this place could be the beginning of something better. The kind that made a place feel alive. Emily almost dared to think the danger was far behind her. Then she heard it. Hoofbeats. Slow at first, then louder. Steady. Determined. Elias looked up from the corral. His eyes narrowed a little. He did not move toward his rifle, but his whole posture changed. A man who sensed trouble before he even saw it. 2 riders came into view. Both men carried the look of Dodge City on them. Dusty hats, Heavy boots, the kind of stare that made a person feel examined. A third man rode a little behind. He wore a badge that caught a flash of sunlight. Emily felt her stomach twist tight. Elias walked to the porch. He stood next to her like a silent wall. The riders slowed near the cabin. One of them tipped his head. He called out that they were looking for a girl about her age. Said she ran from her place of work. Said she might be hurt. Said they only wanted to bring her back safe. Elias did not answer at first. He let the silence sit there. He had a way of using silence like other men used a warning shot. Emily realized that sometimes a quiet man could be more dangerous than the ones who shouted. Emily could feel her breath tangle in her chest. She knew these men were not here to help her. They were here to reclaim what they thought belonged to them. The man with the badge asked if Elias had seen anyone on the trail. He tried to say it casual, like a friendly question, but his hand rested too close to his belt. Elias glanced at Emily, just long enough to let her know she was not alone. Then he looked back at the riders. This land is mine, and anyone who steps on it is treated as a guest as long as they respect my home. I have seen no woman pass through here this morning. The prairie is wide, and folks ride every direction. If you're looking for someone, take the trail south and you might find what you are after. He kept his voice calm, not challenging, not inviting, just firm enough to block any move they might try. The riders looked past him toward the porch. Emily felt like her heartbeat might betray her at any moment. Elias stepped half a pace to the side, enough to shield her from their view. The man with the badge noticed. His expression shifted, just a little. Then he leaned forward in his saddle and asked Elias again if he was sure he had not seen a young woman. His tone was different this time. He was not asking. He was warning. Emily felt her pulse thump in her ears. If Elias said the wrong thing, the entire ranch could turn into a trap. She waited for his answer. And that is when something in his eyes changed in a way she had never seen before. What did Elias say that made the riders stiffen in their saddles and set the stage for everything that would happen next? Elias stood there with the riders watching him. The air felt tight as a stretched rope. Emily waited behind the porch post. She held her breath even though she knew it would not help. Then Elias finally spoke. His voice was steady, clear, calm. He told the riders that this ranch belonged to him and that any person who stepped on his land would be treated as a guest as long as they respected his home. He said he saw no woman pass through that morning. He said the prairie was wide and cruel, and if they wanted to search for someone, they were welcome to follow the trail south. The man with the badge studied him for a long moment. He tried to read Elias, tried to guess if he was hiding something, but Elias did not flinch. He did not shift his stance. He did not blink. He was a man who had lived long enough to know that truth did not always need to shout. Sometimes it just needed to stand firm. After a tense silence, the riders pulled their reins. The horses turned. Dust lifted behind them like a curtain. Emily watched until they disappeared on the trail. Her knees felt weak again, but this time it was not fear. It was relief. It was gratitude. It was the shock of realizing that a man she barely knew had just put himself between her and the life she ran from. Something in her shifted that moment, like a door opening inside her that she had kept locked for years. Elias walked back to the porch. He looked at her with tired eyes. He told her the world can be cruel, but a person does not have to be. He told her that running takes courage, but standing still takes even more. Emily felt tears prick her eyes, but she held them back. She told him she did not know how to thank him. Elias shook his head. He said thanks was not needed. He said people deserve a chance to start over, and that she should not waste hers. The rest of the day passed slow. Emily helped with chores where she could. She fetched water. She brushed the old mare that leaned close to her hand as if sensing she needed comfort. Elias worked beside her, quiet, patient. The kind of presence that made a person feel like the world might not be as dark as she once believed. As the sun fell behind the Kansas horizon and Emily sat on the porch again, she thought about the road that brought her here, the fall, the danger, the strangers who hunted her. Then she thought about the rancher who stood up for her without asking anything in return. She felt something settle deep inside, a feeling she had not known for a long time. Hope. And maybe that is the lesson tucked inside their story. Sometimes the person who saves you is not the loudest voice in the room, but the one who stays when everyone else walks away. Sometimes a new beginning waits in the place you feared most. Now, before we close this chapter, I would love to hear from you. Go ahead and like this story if it touched you even a little. And if you want more stories to keep you company on quiet evenings, please subscribe so we can share more moments like this together. And while you are here, tell me what time it is where you are and what town you are listening from.